Hey guys, welcome to the Youth Fitness Podcast. Topics on youth fitness with a focus on doing what's best for kids. Brought to you by the Martin family, the developers of the Brand X Method, and the Athlete Coach Network.
Youth need great coaches now more than ever. Brand X has dedicated themselves to doing what is best for kids for over 2 decades and now offers mentoring, education, programming, and resources in one smart package to empower coaches to efficiently deliver world-class youth programs. Check out their plug-and-play options and join the Brand X family today. You plus Brand X equals youth program success.
All right, welcome back everybody to the Youth Fitness Podcast. Today we've got a quick discussion. We're going to do a U18 topic on fitness testing in schools. And so Connor and I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about our experience with fitness testing, talk to you kind of about the ethics involving it now today and, what the landscape of it looks like now. We'll touch on some stories and stuff and then talk about, today's normal and where kind of fitness testing in schools fits into that picture. Because I have a feeling we both kind of have strong opinions on this topic. But
I don't know what would give you that impression.
But let's talk about fitness testing in schools as a kind of a general overview. And we'll talk about some of our experiences. I'll let you take that one and lead first.
Obviously, fitness testing in schools is something that has always been part of our country's, physical push, right? Making sure that we have wellness and a base level of health in schools. And that kind of really tracks back to JFK's presidential fitness test that he implemented, which was, if you guys don't, we're not going to go into the details of it, but if you guys don't know yet, but if you guys don't know about the presidential fitness test that JFK put into schools and the program to develop fitness that coincided with that, leaps and bounds better and different than what we see in today's.
As far as the standard?
Yeah, standard physical education,
yep.
Right?
Miles different.
So, it's always been there. When I was a kid, there were still standards, right? When we were testing, there was still the presidential fitness test. I remember it involved a sit and reach. It involved a 1 mile run for time. It involved max pull-ups on a pull-up bar, and then as many sit-ups as you could do in a 1 minute window, right? And it's a funny story because when I started, functional training, my training partner was my best friend. His name was David, and both he and I did the sit-ups, and we reported over 60 reps in the minute. And the PE instructor, the instructor that was over the entire program, actually made us come in for a special redo because he said that what our PE instructor reported was physically impossible. So we redid it, and it was funny because we both actually ended up exceeding what we did. I think David got like 65 and I got like 62. But
that's funny because they did the same thing, a similar thing with me with pull-ups. Like I remember in our physical fitness test, it was as many pull-ups as you could do without falling from the bar, right? And I did, I don't know, at the school, I did 60 something. And they actually told me to come down and stop doing pull-ups. And then they removed pull-ups from the test. Like they only had the push-ups and sit-ups and run on there after that because they said they didn't want to make anybody feel bad. Because I did 60 something pull-ups and they're like, yeah, come down. And then they took that off the test. Like it was no longer a part of the grading curriculum. So it's pretty funny, right? But like thinking back to what we had in our childhood, that was still a far cry from what the original presidential fitness test was, right? The original presidential fitness test was a hard test. And then it was like, okay, let's see how much you can do, right? And the presidential fitness test was like literally grading kids on their ability to do, physical activities. Then it was like kind of warped into easier tasks. And then it was turned into what we had, which was like, let's just see what you can do. And that's all we're going to do with that information. We're just going to see what you can do. And I'm unfamiliar, I have to say, with what it looks like nowadays. But I can only imagine that we're continuing that downward trend from like good to now pretty bad, right? Like it's got to be like, okay, if you want, you can just walk the mile.
Well, and I'll speak to a little bit further in that, obviously, Keegan, you have a daughter in school. I have now 3 daughters in school, and my oldest is turning 10 this year. So I'm seeing what physical education looks like now in school. And, this is not an affront to physical education teachers who I know are understaffed, right? Underpaid. And overworked with how many kids they have in their program. And in addition to that, with a lack of support from the administration on, hey, these kids are going to be in your program and you're actually able to get them moving. With all of the outs that we see now, right, where kids are able to just bring a note by whoever and just get out of physical education, or even school districts saying that let's just scrap the physical education program completely. PE teachers are not the ones to blame here. It's more from the top down, right? Like what is, as a society, what is our goal with physical education, and what is relevant for just everyone to have access to. Right?
And I think it comes down to like, there has to be a standard. Right. There's got to be a standard of like, this is good and this is not good. This is what we're trying to achieve, and this does not meet that standard at all, right? And there does have to be some sort of hard line, and it's not that we're trying to make children feel bad about where they're at, and you don't even need to discuss their results with them because they already know, right? But we do have to address that underlying issue of like, hey, we don't really have a standard anymore. Because down the road, that leads to obesity, taking a bunch of medications, and early death, right? Because fitness isn't a part of their lives. So this could be the transition into fitness. And I know it was for our family, right? Like our dad, tells this story all the time about how he took the presidential fitness test in 7th grade and he failed it. But he went home that night and that was his start into lifting weights, into training. So he did as much research as he possibly could, bought some books, read on what to do, the exercises, and he did that for a year, and he came back and he got 2nd place in his district the next year, right? He won an award for passing the presidential fitness test. So it can definitely be a kickstart to a lifelong love of movement and training if we approach it correctly, right? Because I think there's kind of the ethics debate behind it now, right? Like, do we need to make kids feel bad? No, absolutely not. They can walk the mile and they know where they're at, especially when you look at another kid in that class that might be a superstar and he's running the mile in 7 minutes. Right? So it's not necessarily that we need to share the results with the kid, but we do absolutely need to have a standard and know what that standard is, and then try and instill motivation for the children to reach that standard.
Yeah. And let me kind of expand on that, because I think that's the key, right? Having a baseline standard for which to work towards, right? And that, I don't understand where we kind of did away with that, right? And why it's okay with only physical things. Right? Like, and I'll give a good example. What is the baseline standard for education for a job in America? A high school diploma. That's a standard. That's not us saying you are not worthy of anything if you do not have a high school diploma, but there's a standard set of, hey, a baseline education that's generally accepted from everyone in all industries is that you should have a high school diploma to show general knowledge, right? But for some reason in physical endeavors, we've decided to, do away with baseline standards. And when we do away with baseline standards, then there is nothing to measure oneself against. There is nothing to work towards. There's nothing to have motivation for, right? So bringing back a standard, and again, it doesn't have to be to make somebody feel bad, right? Like, I don't think saying, hey, we'd like everybody to try to get a high school education is making kids feel bad, right? No, but it's just saying like, hey, in order to have a successful life, in order to generally speaking, move the needle after this, you're going to need to apply yourself in this way in order to achieve this standard, which is a high school diploma, right? And that should be the same for physical well-being, right? Yeah. Because education, while that may drive your ability to work, right? If you're not taking yourself, your health into account with a standard, right? Of this is the basic maintenance that you need to have for your body in order to live a healthy life, then at some point you're going to lean back on society, the rest of society, to take care of the issues that could have been addressed earlier. For sure. Right. And I'm not bringing anything political into this. I'm just saying that that's where not having a standard kind of comes back full circle. Right. And even to make it more ridiculous is if, like you said, hey, I'd like you to meet me at 1:00. And, I said, where? And you said, I don't know. Yeah. I would never meet you at 1:00 unless we just happen to end up in the same place in the same time.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
You'd have to say, where's the destination? And I said, okay, I can meet you at 1:00.
Which is pretty funny because that's how guys make plans. Yeah. What time do you want to meet? Anytime. Where? Cool. Not really sure. Yeah, I think having a standard, it's what we need to go back to, right? And the whole presidential fitness test did exactly that, but then we got into the issue of like, now we're making kids feel bad, right? And again, I don't think we need to openly discuss the results with the class. There shouldn't be any public shaming involved in this, but because again, kids know, right? Like, and I believe most people know when it comes to fitness what to do, right? Like, most people know if they're overweight, they should probably eat less. They should probably move more, right? What do we do with our dogs when our dogs are overweight? We go to the vet and they're like, oh, your dog's overweight. Oh, well, feed them a little bit less and take them for some more walks. And it fixes the problem, right? I think we're kind of in tune with what we should do, right? And having that standard, it'll just kind of set the tone for what children do for the rest of their lives, right? Or what they're trying to achieve at least. Right? It gives them a goal. And I think that's good. And I think specifically in today's world, that might be the only place, because of what's normal now for kids, physical education at school might be the only place that they see a standard, or that they're held to a specific standard, or that they're even taught some of these movements. Right? So I think it's extremely important that we go back to some sort of standard. I don't know what that standard is, but I think it's extremely important just based on today's society and what kids are doing now, what's normal.
Because again, when you set a destination, then you have a goal in place,
a path to get there.
Yeah. And then also there's a motivation with a destination.
Sure.
Right. Like if somebody said, hey, I want you to generally just go run.
Right.
Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Right. But if I want you to run 3 miles, right?
Just reminds me of Forrest Gump.
Yeah, right. Just go run. Yeah. Run, Forrest, run, right? Life is like a box of chocolates. Having that end point or that destination is also a way of creating motivation, right? And what we are seeing not only is a lack of standards, right? But we're also seeing a lack of motivation for kids, right? And figuring out how to motivate them by having a definitive standard, a definitive endpoint it's essential. So I think bringing those standards back, I think will do that, right? It'll motivate kids to achieve, right? And to push themselves and to find ways to get to that base level.
Yeah, we can't continue down the road of this just kind of maybe do some, right? It's got to be a hard set standard, and I think that's our stance at least. But thank you guys for tuning in. That was a U18 from the Youth Fitness Podcast talking about fitness testing with kids. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Welcome to the Athlete Coach Network. a new connection-based training platform that breaks down regional barriers and connects coaches and athletes anytime, anywhere. You're an athlete and love to push yourself. Who's guiding you? As an athlete, you can filter and search our library to find the perfect coach, or sign up for a membership to get video feedback and comments from our coaches all over the world. As a coach, you can set up your profile and advertise your credentials, set your own price for video reviews or direct messaging to ensure your rates reflects the value of your time. Welcome to the Athlete Coach Network, and welcome to the future of sports coaching.
That was a Youth Fitness Podcast, topics on youth fitness with focus on doing what's best for kids. Brought to you by the Martin family, the developers of the Brand X Method and the Athlete Coach Network. We hope you guys enjoyed that episode and you listen for more.